Well, I want you to just imagine with me. I want you to imagine with me two ships leaving the harbor. Both these ships, they look alike from the outside and from a distance. They look like exactly identical ships. And you kind of see people out on the decks, and when we begin to look at the levels, I mean, each ship has a kids ministry, and each ship has youth ministry and a level for that, and each ship has the creative arts and worship ministries and so forth, all the way down. The ships are identical. They're leaving harbor. And one ship kind of turns off and begins to veer off to the right, and it's kind of following closer to the land, and the other ship's just going straight. It's heading out to sea. And on closer inspection, these ships aren't quite exactly the same. This one that began to veer off and turn, you begin to take a closer look at that ship, and there's rust. There's rust on that ship. There's barnacles over that ship on the outside of the hull, which is kind of slowing it down. There's a little clank in the engine. It's just you just see there's some issues with this ship. And you look down through the levels, and people are hanging out, and people are sitting around, and there's people on the decks enjoying the outside and the breeze and the view and different things. And then you look at the other ship, and on closer inspection, this ship is sharp. There's no barnacles. It's actually moving quite at a faster pace. Everything's clean. There's no rust. And as you look at the different levels and you look at the sections, people aren't just sitting around and talking and doing different things. People are actually gathering together in prayer. And you see people on their knees, and you see people on their faces, and you see people out on the decks with their hands raised in worship. And there's just a whole different vibe of this ship than there is of the other ship. And the word that would define this other ship is kind of this idea of casual. Everybody's casual on this ship that kind of veered off. There's no hunger, really. There's not a lot of intensity. There's really not a lot of urgency. And on this other ship, it's the exact opposite. There is intensity, there is urgency, there is a hunger, a desire. And this ship that's headed out to sea, it cuts through the wind. I mean, it's going against the wind, it's going against the waves, but yet it's moving so much faster than the other ship, and it's just cutting right through those waves. If you haven't figured it out, those ships represent churches in America today. The problem is the vast majority of churches are like that ship that veered off. They're comfortable. They're casual. They're okay with the status quo. They're okay with just kind of sticking to the edge of land. They're okay not really going that fast. They're not really practicing discipleship. They're definitely not headed towards lordship. And then there's churches who are building from the proper foundations. There's churches who are building from the place of prayer. There's churches who are on that path, and they're being discipled, and they're surrendering, and they're growing, and they're bearing fruit, and they're headed out to sea where God has called them.